Cowboys, they are fighting it out for the final spot in the playoffs. Basically, anybody who's going to win the NFC East is going to be what I think the final spot of the NFC playoffs and the NFL playoffs in general. I am Earl Holland, and here with me to talk about the Dallas Cowboys is a longtime Dallas Cowboys fan. Sometimes he gets a little embarrassed, but if you aren't a true fan, you don't get embarrassed by your team at any point and then just swear off on it and come back, then you're not a true fan. This is Matthew Lang, someone you've seen on the show before, a past guest, and I'm glad to have you on the show, Matt. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Glad to be here.
Hey, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk about the Cowboys. I know things have been very crazy this season for them, especially at one point, just like many of the teams in the NFC East, they were thought left for dead and then find a way to resurface in the spot, especially when you have 4 sub-500 teams playing to determine who's going to win it all.
It's funny how mediocrity often, is like that cockroach you can't kill, That's what it is. You have four teams in that division, all of them are bad. And they just hang around until, you take that shoe and just kill it. Tap that head,
And it's funny because any other year, if Arizona was in this division, they walk away with it easily.
Oh, yeah. I think any other halfway decent team will walk away with it easily. But, I would say this, the Cowboys have shown some resiliency this year, and especially after losing Dak Prescott. So, I am kind of proud of what they've done, since then. So, we'll see.
Going in, now, of course, tell everybody the story. What led you to become a Dallas Cowboys fan, and what was the attraction to them?
I was born in Texas so many years ago. So, my father was just like, what Luke Skywalker said, just like my father before me, was a Jedi before me. My father was a Cowboy fan. I was a Cowboy fan. My brother was a Cowboy fan. He left them a few years ago. I'm a reluctant Cowboy fan because, they're still in my heart, but I just can't quit them. I want to, but I just can't get them out. But I've been able to talk. I've been a Cowboys fan.
So, going into the season, expectations, new head coach Mike McCarthy. What were the expectations? What were you thinking? Especially able to retain Amari Cooper, especially it could have, Washington was trying to lure him over there. What was it like going into the season? What were you thinking?
I was not optimistic. I think that I was not happy with them re-signing Amari Cooper. I don't think he's a dominant number one. And I was very happy with Michael Gallup. And then you're going to, with them drafting CeeDee Lamb, I wasn't happy with it. But, especially with the game that Sunday's game, just shows you how dangerous all three of those guys can be together. So I'm eating a little bit of crow when it comes to that. But I was expecting, I was not a Mike McCarthy fan. I was not expecting a lot. And, truth be told, I'm not a huge Dak Prescott fan either. I don't believe in paying a franchise. I don't believe paying a quarterback $40 million. Doesn't make sense to me.
And I also, before we continue that, I forgot to ask your favorite memory as a Cowboys fan. I can imagine growing up right in the heyday of them. There's so many.
Indeed, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Jay Novacek, Daryl Johnson. Growing up, that's when we used to get the trading cards. And I knew everybody on every position and all the backups. It was just my favorite memory of just all three of those Super Bowl wins. I remember watching all those games. I remember just cheering loud. I remember Emmitt Smith holding out the first 3 games of the 90. Godly, was that the 92 season? No, maybe 93 season. And how we missed them. I remember the Redskins were up were killing the Cowboys in the third quarter, and Troy Aikman brought us back, and we won at FedEx Field. I mean, it's just so many memories, and especially in this dynamic Dallas versus Washington, and living in the DC area, you have these great memories, and they always they're just there. So being a Cowboy fan, a Cowboy fan who lived through their heyday in the '90s, you really you got some great memories.
Was there a point in the season that you felt they were going to make the playoffs, or was it just because looking at everybody else in the NFC East? Because
no, I had no. Even when they had, I think the low point was that Thanksgiving they lost to the Redskins. I lost all hope then, and I was like, this team doesn't deserve to go anywhere. I was ready for a rebuild. I wanted them to fire Mike McCarthy at the end of the season. I wanted them to just totally go through a rebuild. I don't think in the Cowboys. This is the frustrating thing about being a Cowboy fan. There's always these expectations, whether they're real or realistic or not, that the Cowboys are going to always compete for a Super Bowl. So they never do a rebuild. And I was hoping that we would just do just start fresh, take our lumps for a couple of years, and start over again. And I still kind of feel that way, because even if we get into the playoffs, well, it's going to be, let me rephrase that. If we get into the playoff, if we play the wrong person, we're going to get destroyed. But if we play who I think we're going to play, if we make it in there, we might do some noise. We might make some do some damage.
Are you looking at Tampa? Because that looks like mathematically that might be who in the plan.
I think the Cowboys can beat Tampa Bay. I think their defensive line is as nasty as it was the last couple games. Tom Brady is a dead man. I really do.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's interesting. The last person I had on, Vinny Varadarajan, who's a Giants fan, said they don't want to see Tampa, but it all depends on who the team is that gets in. Who knows? Dallas could want to see Tampa. Who knows what Washington fans think? You never know, because those are the only three teams that have a valid thing.
Washington. You mentioned the Washington team. Those are the only fans more deluded than a Cowboy fan. So,
apparently, you haven't lived near Philly.
Too sad.
Was there a point you were worried about the Cowboys making the playoffs?
Huh?
Or were you worried that the Cowboys weren't going to make the playoffs? I know it's
not worried. I mean, at that point, I was like, we deserve what we get. I mean, when you run an organization as badly as the Cowboys been ran, maybe the last 5 or 10 years, we deserve what we get. I was not going to be crying in my milk if the Cowboys didn't make the playoffs. I wasn't worried about that. I am pleasantly happy that they might have a chance to win. I mean, pretty much if they win, they're in, pretty much, right? The Redskins play the Eagles, right? And if the Cowboys win, we're in. I have no faith that the Redskins are going to be. Not with that quarterback carousel that they have. So, it was pleasant to be able to be put in this situation.
It's interesting that talking about the whole. Pretty much every quarter, every team has had a backup in, and by the end of the season, it might be every backup playing because of the.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, I guess that's parity. I don't know. I mean, it's. I think this shows also the NFL is a poor. It really is a poor. I'm trying to think of a word. Talent. There's a lot of poor talent evaluators in the NFL because there's no reason why. And the Cowboys got this one right though. You have a quarterback. The quarterback is supposed to be the most important position on the field, right? Why don't you have a capable? Why don't you make sure that you have a capable backup? The Cowboys did it right. They got having Andy Dalton. They're paying him $7 million a year, but look what happened. Prescott got hurt. You bring him in. Look, I mean, the Giants, Colt McCoy. I mean, really, the Eagles. you can't be mad if Wentz. You can't be mad that they bring in another quarterback. You have to if you don't have a capable backup, your season is lost if something happens to your starting quarterback. And I think that's what really affected the NFC East this year. Bad quarterback play, and there hasn't been in some of the teams there hasn't been any capable backups.
Which is interesting because all the 3 of the 4 coaches have been head coaches who've been to the Super Bowl, which you think they would have known how this goes. Again, I don't think Washington was expecting that their rookie quarterback would completely implode. They thought he'd actually work, but them the breaks.
That's true though. But you can again, bad talent evaluator. You're picking this kid. He's a slow, big arm quarterback. First thing he does when he gets to the Redskins is he gets his own clothing line. Have these trademarks. I mean, the warning flags were up with this guy. They picked him anyway, and then you bring in a mediocre head coach. Ron Rivera is a mediocre head coach. Was mediocre with the Carolina. Cam Newton covered up a lot of his sins. Bring him in. And what does he do? He wants to have the veteran in. A veteran, I read an article. I was looking at somebody said something in the article. You can't, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it was somebody that was replying to one of your posts or something. I don't know where I saw it. But saying that you had, who's the guy that got hurt that's the quarterback for the Redskins?
Alex Smith.
Alex Smith. Do you really think he was mentoring Dwayne Haskins? I don't think he was. I think he wanted his job back. And so you throw that all in the mix, you got an exploding mess, and I think that's what it is. And if this kid had talent, Dwayne Haskins, why are you going to cut him? If you got talent, why cut him? You're not paying anything for him for the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's already against the cap. But the other thing is this: with Smith, it was sunk cost because previous regime signed him to the ridiculous thing where you cut him. It's like cutting Carson Wentz now. Mm-hmm. You're still stuck. You're in. That's probably $40 million in cap purgatory, and it's not going to help you any. And you might as well at least ride it out. I mean,
But why not keep Haskins? Say Haskins. You're not going to get off the bench for the next 2 years. Next 2 years, we're riding with Alex Smith. Let the boy, let him learn from Alex Smith for the next 2 years. No, and Alex Smith knows he's not going to lose his job for the next 2 years. Why not do it like that? I think Rivera did not want Dwayne Haskins, and Dwayne Haskins gave him the ammunition to get rid of for Rivera to get rid of him. And I think it's a sad situation all the time. I don't know if you want to talk about Booger McFarland's comments, but I think it's an unfortunate situation all around.
When 3 coaches aren't really satisfied with your style of play, that's a problem. I mean, and when Snyder basically went a full Jerry and picked Haskins against the wishes of his people, we learned that you know.
But that's true. But the question is though, who are these 3 coaches?
Well, I know. Look, I mean, at least out of 2 of the guys who didn't think they were highly went to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, Callahan and Rivera, but Jay Gruden, while no one ever wants to say Jay Gruden was ever right, you
have 3 mediocre coaches who are not very good at their jobs. Evaluating a kid who just got out of college. Ron Rivera has no, and I'm not blaming Ron Rivera, but he had no patience with Dwayne Haskins. He wanted to win now, and then losing to a team that fired him, that was the last straw. So I mean, I think we can put all the blame on Dwayne Haskins if we wish, but Ron Rivera is a mediocre coach, and he wants to win now because he felt a certain way about losing to Carolina. I just think. You pick a kid, you have to have some patience. Did he have 10 career starts?
I think he had 13.
13 career starts. I don't think that's enough starts. Did I think he was going to be a great quarterback? No, I don't think he would be a great quarterback. No, not from what I've seen. But you put the time into it. You wasted a first-round pick on him. You need to give him some time. Or put him on the bench. You don't need – he's not costing you anything. Put him on the bench and let him learn.
The thing was, I said when they picked him, okay, let him sit. McNair sat a year, but then Gruden's hot seat started getting hot. The owner started complaining because this is what happens when you don't have a good front office that doesn't, communicate with the owner. Rivera, that's the one thing Rivera can do. He can communicate, and the fact that he even talked Snyder into cutting him, that's even more surprise.
But why? But why is that though? If this was any other year, Snyder wouldn't have listened to Rivera. Snyder has so many troubles right now that he had. I mean, it's nothing he can do.
I mean, hey, because Joe Gibbs signed off on him, but that's a whole different story. Like I said, Joe Gibbs signed off on Rivera, so you can't run afoul of.
And let's talk about Rivera. Why? If you're looking for a head coach, why are you picking Ron Rivera? What in his pedigree has shown you? Oh, you know what? This guy will take us to the mountaintop.
One of the weakest he coached. I say this. He coached in one of the weakest divisions where 3 of the 4 coaches have been to a Super Bowl. That's and really out of the actually think about it. All 4 of the coaches have been to a Super Bowl, but only one's been there for a long term, and that's Sean Payton. Because Arians went to the Super Bowl,
and that division was until the Saints won it twice in a row. No team had repeated as division champions for like 5 or 6 years. It was a mediocre division. He had a team that had a great player as Cam Newton. I'm not going to say Cam Newton was a great quarterback, but a great player, and he couldn't seal the deal then. I'm sorry I'm an owner. I'm not getting losers as my coach. If you ain't won a Super Bowl, I wouldn't even think about hiring you. Ron Rivera ain't won a Super Bowl. He shouldn't even been on the short list.
I mean, but then again, McCarthy won a Super Bowl and he got hired.
But it's just the way McCarthy got fired from Green Bay. I mean, I don't know if you read about some of his antics up there. They would the team losing. He up there getting massages, and it was a weird stuff going on there. That's my turnoff about McCarthy. But he won a Super Bowl. He's a winning coach, so you got to give him that. I mean, I think in the NFL, and you see this with Greg Williams getting a job every year. You see this with the Redskins defensive coordinator. What's his name?
Del Rio
getting a job every year. You have these mediocre coaches who aren't great at their job, continually getting paid, and they're evaluating talent. If you're not good at your job, how are you going to evaluate me at doing my job?
I mean, Del Rio's a good defensive coordinator, not a head coach, but well, I don't think compared to the dregs of the world that have been in Washington, he is.
I mean, last year he was with the who? Denver. Denver, and I bet you, I'm going to look at that. I bet you they weren't the team he was with last year wasn't in the top 10 with defense. I promise you that. He's somebody who made his name off of one or two good seasons, like Greg Williams, and now everybody thinks he's a defensive guru. But if you look at the stats, he's not. And the thing is, that's why I feel sorry for a lot of these NFL players. You're being constantly judged by mediocre men. And why did he do that? Why did Greg Williams have a job after Bounty Gate?
I don't know. Here's the thing, but the player, I guess, is because the level of mediocrity is far better because the players now compared to last year, they say he's much better than what's his name, who was the previous defensive coordinator under Gruden, and he was so bad that DJ Swearinger was basically talking about I can't even think of his name, Greg Minuski.
Minuski was terrible. Yeah, but guess what? Greg Minuski, I bet you he has a job right now in the NFL.
I thought he was in college or something. I think he.
I thought where he is now.
I mean, but yeah, I mean, we can always talk about. You know what? At this point, I'd like Norv calling plays instead of Scott Turner, but that's a whole. Norv can call plays, and Norv can call plays. He should be ahead. He can call plays. It don't matter. He's almost 70 years old, but he can still call some plays. That's probably why he didn't take the coordinator job because. Last thing you want to do, how far the mighty have fallen that you were coaching here. Now you're the offensive coordinator. As we continue on that, looking at the playoffs, if Dallas gets in, who do you think they match up well with?
Interestingly enough, I think they match up well against everyone except for the Green Bay Packers. I think everybody else is weak at a position. I think you don't want to go against the guy QB, Aaron Rodgers. You don't want to go against him.
Mm-hmm.
I think anybody else, there is no other great quarterback in the NFC at this point. And there's going to be NFC playoffs. I mean, you want to take Drew Brees. Sean Payton is a fool for putting him back in. I mean, the last two games, you see the man's arm is gone. You know, the Cowboys play against him. That's fresh meat. They're going to come up against him. Like we already talked about the Cowboys with Tom Brady. I think they can take the Tampa Bay. Who else would it be? The Bears. You got Mr. Trubisky. He doesn't excite me. Who else?
Seattle.
I don't want to see the Cowboys against Seattle either. So yeah, I forgot about Russ Cook. You know, Russ. I don't want to see any parts of Rodgers or Russ. But anybody else, I think they're matching pretty well against.
And that goes to the other side. Who you mentioned Seattle, you mentioned Green Bay. Who's the lesser of two evils that you'd rather not see?
It got to be Seattle. I would rather see Seattle than see the Packers. I think this is Aaron Rodgers' year. I don't think anybody's messing with him.
Looking at the Cowboys and just the way they were able to revive and get themselves off the mat, that's a huge blow with Dak Prescott getting hurt. I mean, some people may dispute that, but think about this. Andy Dalton, a guy who led Cincinnati to some division titles, regardless of how he fared in the playoffs, made Cincinnati respectable. The odds are he is going to play well, maybe after, the initial shock of having to come in cold, but and after the concussion and everything else, he seems like he's flourished in that Dallas offense.
I think so. I mean, it doesn't hurt. Like I said, it's having those three great wide receivers and having Zeke run hard like he did last game. It doesn't hurt. And then that defense is coming on too. That kind of help him. So he is making his job easy. He doesn't have to do too much.
Looking to the Super Bowl predictions, who's coming out of the AFC? Who's coming out of the NFC?
All right.
What is the final score?
Now you heard it here first. It will be the Baltimore Ravens versus the Green Bay Packers.
Wow. What makes you feel Baltimore has the firepower to overcome, Buffalo and Kansas City and Miami?
Well, this is the thing. They're not going to have to play Kansas City. Whoever plays Kansas City first, whether team plays Kansas City is going to take them out. Kansas City has been living dangerously the last 3 weeks. I don't know if you've been following their games. Atlanta should have beat them on Sunday. It's something that's not right with Kansas City. Miami, the Ravens can beat Miami. The Bills, that would be an interesting game, but I would take Lamar over Josh Allen. And I think they have the defense to slow down Stephon Diggs. The Steelers, the paper champions. I'm not scared of them either. They're terrible. You got Mr. Roethlisberger, who is he needs to retire too. But the only other team in the NFC, the AFC, I think that can challenge other than the Kansas City, they're still a good team, but I think that they're going to be taken out before the Ravens have to deal with them. I would say I wouldn't want to see the Ravens don't want to see the Titans again. I mean, Derrick Henry is a bad man. Yeah.
It's like that meme, like if you or someone you love have been the victim of a Derrick Henry stiff arm, you may be entitled to compensation.
They couldn't deal with him. But I think whoever played, it's going to be wide open. Kansas City will lose the first game they played. I know they have a bye. They will lose the first game they play this year. You heard it here first.
AFC. I mean, who's coming out of the NFC?
Oh, the Packers. the championship game is going to be the Packers versus Seattle. But Seattle does not. Their defense has been playing very well as of late. They don't have the firepower to stop Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, the Devontae Adams, is the best hookup this year. I mean, Devontae Adams is a bad man too.
I mean, I know some people are saying, "Hey, if they can't handle Colt McCoy, I mean, imagine what Rodgers is going to have."
Exactly. So, I mean, Russell Wilson will keep you in the game, but they don't have a fight. I think what really hurts Seattle offensively is not being is Josh Gordon failing to get reinstated. I mean, that would have gave them another big wide receiver on the outside. You got number 16, what's his name? Little short guy who plays the slot. That will give you a little bit more options. But they don't have it this year.
And who you got winning between Baltimore and Green Bay?
Baltimore is going to be a slugfest. 27-20, Baltimore.
That's probably one of the boldest predictions. I mean, it's pretty bold and definitely going to be interesting to see how that turns out. Before we wrap this up, how can people reach out to you on social media? I know, especially right now, people can't do stuff face to face. So the only way to go is with social media.
Oh, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter as you can at me at Lang's Ambition. And I'm on Instagram, Lang's Ambition.
As we got a message.
My father said I'm smoking crack. No, I'm telling you, it's going to happen. I'm telling you, Baltimore Packers. You can have me back on here. Dallas, Baltimore Packers. So we have a Super Bowl edition. I want to go back. Hey. I mean, Ravens versus Packers. I'm sorry.
I really appreciate you being on. We'll finish this up offline. After this, we wrap up our interviews, and for at least for the foreseeable future, we're looking for a couple more teams to get on our interviews. But coming up after this interview, we go to the New Orleans Saints, and of course, we'll be back in a little bit. So thanks for listening. For Matt Lang, my guest, this is Earl Holland saying thanks for listening, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
All right.